There was a day when we basically were testing our phono, the LPU III, and then naturally we had the DAC III at hand. It was all in one system. So we decided, okay, why wouldn't we use this opportunity to basically record both sources in one system playing nearly identical music? So that was the idea. And with the experiment in mind that I always wanted to do, we said let's record it and then publish it on social media and let the public decide. The idea is to play back from both digital and analog source. Everything else needed to be kept equal, so ceteris paribus condition. So the same system, the same mic, the same position, the same loudness, everything else kept equal, recorded and presented to the public. So the digital was the DAC III Balanced special. The analog playback was done with the LPU III Balanced special. As the name implies, the name balanced implies that they use signal output transformer. Pre-amplifier was the Pre-4 and the MPA4 monoblocks in our Monitor 963 speakers, the same mic in the same position. At this point, I like to say that there aren't many manufacturers out there that actually can perform that experiment, because not every manufacturer manufactures DACs and phonos. And then they have also a performance level system where they employ similar materials and components or identical output stage topology with identical tubes. So we one of the very few who actually able to perform that. Our crossoverless speakers, monitors, which have no crossover and eliminate any other sort of bias and coloration. So that is as transparent and direct the sound could be at the output. And we've chosen the Dave Brubeck Quartet, the Take 5, the Timeout album, the Take 5 track, which is actually represents also the era of the peak of the highest quality of analog playback as well. That's the 60s. So the recording, the pressing itself was from 1968. The digitally mastered version from the same album, the same track. We played basically back through these two devices. So the DAC III was connected to VDT, LPU III was connected to the SUT. It's also we make also the step-up transformers ourselves, and the cartridge, it was matched to the cartridge, the very well-known DL103. We didn't use any DSD, high-res or anything like this. As a matter of fact, it was just a 16-bit 44 Redbook CD. So it was a 16-bit format that played against the analog. Because the social media platforms like YouTube use they compress the audio. We also publish the uncompressed WAV files. That was all available and still available, and is going to be available. We're not going to take it off. 16-bit digital versus the vinyl counterpart, the original recording from 1968. We played one after the other and marked both tracks with A and B, 2 letters, and that was it. That was the idea, and I was very open-minded to see what comes out of it. We knew already more or less the results, or we had our certain expectations about the outcome. Our customers in the showroom can distinguish one from the other, then most likely the broad public will not be able to do the same. So they would not be able to distinguish as well. Because the outcome could have been 3 different scenarios. So the first scenario would be like when we have the equal number of correct and incorrect guessing, so 50-50%. So that would be the inconclusive scenario, where we can't say, was it due to that people couldn't hear the difference, or there was no difference, or whatever. So that was in the inconclusive scenario outcome. The second scenario is the one there where majority votes correctly. That would be the conclusive scenario, that they can hear the difference between digital and analog, and they know what the digital is supposed to, what the digital sounds, and analog is analog, so they know the difference between digital and analog. So in the third scenario, that is the scenario where the majority votes incorrectly, so they can't distinguish, but they can't attribute the sound, which is analog and which is the digital. And now, and the fourth scenario is actually the one where they thought it's a placebo thing. We're just basically faking the playback, and it's actually played the same. Is both analog or both digital. That voting took place mostly through our website, so people had to submit a form with the right answer, their name, their login, their username on the social media, and they had to do it simultaneously on the social media as well. And we have this video published on YouTube and Facebook, and we asked on both of the social media channels to also poll there. So basically, in a nutshell, that was the kind of the approach. With the hindsight, I can say that I wish even more people participated and we had a much larger data set. What I can say, that the first scenario didn't occur. That was nice. There was no 50-50%. Nothing was left to chance. We had a consistent number of voters which actually guessed incorrectly. Not correctly, incorrectly. On the Facebook, we had 100% incorrect. All the specialist audiophiles and the S1X audio group, they voted 100% incorrect. There's a comeback of vinyl and reel-to-reel tape and tape cassettes, but majority of people still somehow listen to digital, and they have forgotten or don't even know how great analog can be. Probably those who voted it incorrectly didn't have much of a reference. That's just my guess. I'm just trying to interpret the results. So the vast majority of people voted incorrectly. They said that the sample B, which was our analog, they said it's digital. So basically we have a split at 70-30. 70% of all guesses were incorrect, and only 30% were correct. Given the results, if you have any comment or idea why, please let us know in the comments below. Of course, those who commented incorrectly or guessed incorrectly, please comment in the section below why you think the phono was digital and the digital, our DAC, was analog. That would be very interesting to know for us. So coming back to my very early thoughts, why does digital sound so different to analog? Why does it sound sterile, boring, and artificial? That was, I think, that conflict between digital and analog, I think it's now resolved. It's obvious to people who listen to our products that we managed to overcome basically that difference. Analog doesn't need to be different from digital. It's just a format. Everything, all the processes happening in the analog domain, even the digital one. So if the digital is great, then it will sound as great as analog. And that's what we always tried intentionally to implement in our designs. 16 bits, that's what basically, just to summarize, 16 bits, 14 bits represents the equilibrium, the optimum between the information and the quantization noise. So that's what we played back. The 16-bit format is not obsolete. It doesn't need to be replaced by anything else. 16-bit PCM, it's all everybody needs. It's all, we don't need to have 18, 24 or any other sort of bit depth. One doesn't need to have DSD with very high sampling rates and low bit depth. Nobody needs any other format. It's good enough, if it's good enough to compete with the analog source and it's convincing and people cannot distinguish one from the other, probably one doesn't need more than that. That would be my conclusion.